That single program has revolutionized our business and the way we communicate with people. It allows us to connect so personally with our database and connect on an emotional level that I never thought was possible.
Welcome to the Real Estate Coffee House. Today's feature is Rich and Balanced with Ryan Shields. Michael and Ryan have a spot saved for you at their table. Enjoy the chat. Welcome to the Real Estate Coffee House podcast. I am Michael Thorne of Remax Lifestyles Realty and the Thorne Maisie Bongers, a real estate group in Langley, BC. And today's guest is a realtor at the Shields Group at Royal LePage Martin Liberty in Brandon, Manitoba. He is the man, the myth, the legend. He is Ryan Shields. Ryan, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me, Michael. I'm super excited to be here with you.
Now that sounds like deja vu to me, you saying that, Ryan, because this is take number 3. Take number 1, the power went out here in the studio. Take number 2, Ryan Shields identified the fact that we weren't recording. And so now this is the third time we've had this conversation. So let me ask you this completely impromptu question here, Ryan. I had to Google your name getting ready for the podcast, something I don't think I've done before because we've always just been connected on social media. Tell the listeners what happens when you type Ryan Shields into the search engine. You
will find a very famous race car named after me. Number 39 from Cars, the movie, is named Ryan Shields. It's kind of cool.
Now, this isn't a question I've asked you on the previous takes. When were you first aware that number 39 from Cars was called Ryan Shields? How was it brought to your attention?
You know what? It was a friend of ours pointed it out. I didn't realize it until, somebody sent me a message asking me if I knew about it. And then it was just kind of completely random. But it was right when our boys were starting to watch it. So it would have been probably 10 years ago when things were coming out.
And did you lie to your children and say, hey, that car is named after your dad?
100%. Absolutely. Why wouldn't you? They were young and gullible.
Beautiful. I want to share with the listeners a bit of a new direction that we're going to take the podcast. Something was brought to my attention by Valerie Garcia. For the first number of episodes, I had sort of identified topics that I wanted to dig in that I thought would be value for the listeners of the podcast. And so I'd find the topic and then I'd go try to find out a guest that would come on and talk about that topic. But Valerie's like, maybe you're doing it 180 degrees from what you should be doing. What you should be doing is reaching out to really amazing humans in the industry and saying, what are you passionate about talking about right now in today's real estate market? And what do you think will be of value to the industry and to the listeners? So that's exactly what we're going to be doing from now on, reaching out to great humans. And that's why I reached out to Ryan Shields. And I said, Ryan, if you could come on the podcast and talk about something, what would you like to talk about? And he said, I would like to talk about how we're growing our business through our past clients. And so that's exactly what we're going to do. Ryan and I are going to pour over why you should be focusing on the past and not the future. But first, the news.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Each week, we take a few minutes with our guests to dig into a real estate news story. And the news story that we're going to talk about today is probably a news story that's in every local newspaper. This happened to be published in the Vancouver Sun. It reads, BC Real Estate Association forecasts deep decline in home sales through 2023. And the first reasoning for that is that home sales are forecasted to continue to slump as high mortgage rates put pressure on the housing market through next year, according to the British Columbia Real Estate Association. So Ryan, you're a big educator of your clients. How are you having conversations with your sellers, but more particularly your buyers, on how rate increases are affecting them?
First off, it's a great talking point for us. We're always looking for ways to connect with clients, whether they are actively in the market right now. And obviously, this has been a hot topic for a little while. And so we have to make sure we're properly educated, but it's a good reason for us to connect with every buyer and explain to them what it means for them and how it changes things that they're doing. But it also really gives us a good opportunity to connect with our entire database and just share with them so they can feel like they're a little bit more empowered and more knowledgeable when they're talking to their friends and stuff. So the biggest thing we got to make sure is we understand what's happening and what we predict to be happening and how it's going to affect us here in Brandon. And then it gives us a great opportunity to connect on a one-to-one basis with especially all our buyers and our sellers, because it is affecting them as well.
In these articles, there's always this one little section that sort of bugs me a little bit. And in this particular article, it says, in its forecast released Thursday, the BC REA said residential sales in BC are forecast to decline 34.4% from a record high in 2021 of 81,000 units this year. And that's sort of a misleading stat because it really doesn't affect sellers and buyers. The number of sales doesn't really impact them. It impacts us as an industry, and people hear decline of 34% and they instinctively say that's pricing. That's 34% pricing. We're talking about just number of sales, because in the next paragraph, it says that the report anticipates a decrease of 4.3% this year and a further 3.1% next year. And that's the real focus people should be focusing on, is the decrease in property values or potential sales numbers, and not the number of units. The number of units affects us inside the real estate industry as realtors, but doesn't really impact the public.
No, absolutely. And I mean, they love pushing out those numbers because they're big and they're scary and they try to get attention grabbers. But again, that goes back to the educating our clients and communicating with them of pulling information out of these articles that really do matter, and sharing with them how it's going to affect them and their personal situation. And every buyer, every seller is so different in why they're buying or why they're selling and their motivation that, you know what, unfortunately, sometimes maybe they don't have a choice but to sell right now or to buy, and we got to deal with the market that it's in. And that's where we just have to be able to educate them on what's happening with the pricing. It's not the inventory, it's nothing else. It's just, what do we got to watch for pricing and how these rate hikes are affecting all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and you really talked about in the change in interest rates, it really provided you an opportunity to connect with people. And a changing market, in my opinion, always just presents an opportunity. And the article ends with this. However, while the real estate market struggles under the weight of higher interest rates, the report says the downturn is unlikely to be long-lived, as BC's strong population growth means that there's no shortage of demand for housing in the province. And so if the article runs off at the end that rates should come down in coming years, and that demand and supply will push prices back up again, we are really in a window of opportunity for buyers that have been on the sideline for 5-6 years, potentially waiting for a bit of a lull. And we have to educate that consumer that now might be the right time to jump in. And so how are you educating or making people aware, hey, this is not a bad thing, it's an opportunity?
It's funny that you just said that exact thing about a window of an opportunity for buyers, because we just sent out a newsletter to everybody with that exact message, that have our ducks in a row right now. This is the perfect time as a buyer to capitalize on some opportunities that we've been waiting for. And from a seller side of things, it's a scary unknown. A lot of sellers are worried about what's happening because they do see days on market staying a little bit longer, and we're not getting the competing offers and the offer dates that we were seeing over the last couple of years. So you're exactly right. There is a window of opportunity for people that are prepared and have their ducks in a row to jump into the market right now.
The pouring of a fresh cup means we're moving on to the main topic of today's chat with Ryan Shields. And Ryan, we're going to be talking about growing your business through your past business and how that mindset also helps you have a balanced life. For people that don't know Ryan, he's married with 3 teenage kids, or almost teenage kids. They're all at the ice rink all the time. You've got very, very busy lives. And focusing on your past clients has also brought a whole lot of balance, not only a great business, but allows you to have a really amazing life too as well. And that was a main point too you wanted to talk about, is balance.
Absolutely. And I mean, not only do we have 3 kids of our own in hockey, we have a WHL billet living with us too. So we have another 17-year-old that's living with us who is extremely busy. But exactly like you said, our business has been able to take shape to afford us that balance and to build our business around our lifestyle. And our database is so strong that when we are able to connect and how we do connect with them, it's very fulfilling. And there's a lot of like-minded clients that we work with that we see in a small community all the time.
Yeah, and I think you and I are very aligned with this sort of thought process is focusing on your past clients. But it really all starts, if you're going to grow your business from the people that have already done business with you, not only for them to repeat business with you, but to refer you to other people. It all starts with providing an amazing experience. If the experience they had with you when they were the buyer and the seller wasn't amazing, then they're not going to come back and bring others with them. So how important is it that they have an amazing experience with you while they're buying and selling property?
We don't spend anything on outward marketing. Our marketing is providing that service. We go above and beyond to do everything we can with our clients, that they have our full attention when we're working with them, giving them everything we can to make this a stress-free experience. And therefore, they're our biggest advocates. They're the ones talking about everything that we do out in the public and everywhere else. So we strive to make that process today as exceptional as possible, as seamless as possible. And when it's all finished, we just want them to be extremely happy. And they're good friends of ours. Like, it's such an intimate process for us that we spend so much time with them, whether it's talking on the phone and or sitting on in person, and that everything is focused on them when we're with them, for sure.
The very first thing our team talks about in any presentation, buyer or seller presentation, is a Walt Disney quote that says, "Do what you do so well that people come back and bring others with them." That's the very first slide. And we really prep them to say, hey, look, our goal is to make sure that you're happy. If you're not happy, the repeat and referral part of our business does not happen. How do you prep your clients that this is the way you do business? Or is that the same thing you have? You just say, hey, our goal is to make you happy so that you send us business. You plant that seed right away with them. How do you approach that?
We do talk about that, and we talk about our biggest advocates are our past clients. And thankfully, at this point, we don't have that many brand new clients that haven't either been referred to us or repeat to us. So it's a nice, easy icebreaker for us that way, like talking about where they came from, how they got our names and or how we got their names and connected with them. And then we do talk about the service and all the stuff we will provide for them and be there right through to the end. And then ongoing after that, we just kind of lay out what the whole journey is going to look like for them, what we're going to take care of, and how we're going to help them out through the entire process. And then we follow through with what we say we're going to follow through with. That's, in my opinion, the biggest piece that we can provide is it's easy to say something, but until we actually do it, it's hard to build that trust. And that's the biggest piece that we have going for us is our clients trust us and they trust that we say we're going to do something and we do it.
And that's the interesting thing about people always pursuing new leads. Every single one of those people you haven't proved yourself to yet, but everyone you've already done business with, you've obviously demonstrated your competence and your ability to do it. And so maintaining that relationship with them and having them rave about you at every little get together they go to, you've proven to them your value. And so that's the big part of something, is just earning someone's trust to help them guide them through this process. Why would you want to start with someone who doesn't know you from the next guy? That never makes sense to me.
It's so much easier to maintain a relationship and grow a relationship than try and start from scratch every single time. And it's so much more enjoyable because we get to know people. It's a great example was last night at the rink. I saw a client there and they had friends that were just moved into town that they introduced me. Like, oh, this is Ryan, who we were talking to you about up there. We saw him down on the ice. And so it's just like that connection and that instant icebreaker that's so much easier when you do provide not only good service, but you're a good person and you have a good relationship with people.
When I first got into this business, when I didn't have a past database of past clients, I had to do all the stuff. I had to do the door knocking, the cold calling, the open houses, all that. We used to do office tours. We would all get on a bus and we'd all go look at the new properties together as realtors. We'd walk in and out and preview all the homes. And there was always this one mortgage broker that would come on the bus with us. And I was so jealous of that mortgage broker because he knew exactly where his clients were. They were the 30 other people on that bus, where us as agents, I didn't know what door my next client was behind. And it was very easy for them because they only needed 30 amazing relationships with realtors to grow an amazing mortgage broker business. Now that we have these established databases, that's exactly how I feel about my business. I feel like I've got a bus load of 400 past clients. I know exactly where they are. I don't have to go searching. Will this bus bench ad work? Will this social media? Will this video? Will all these things work? I know exactly where they are. I know exactly who they are. And because of that, it allows me not to sort of scattershot my business so I can spend time with my kids. I can spend time with my wife because I know exactly where my business is and where it's coming from. Knowing that, is that the key to balance and having that downtime where you know exactly where your business is, you know who they are?
Absolutely. And it's funny because there's so many different philosophies on how to run a real estate business. And some programs, coaches talk about building this huge database with thousands of people in it and having emails blast out to them and everything. And it's kind of funny to me because when I actually look at our database, it's pretty small in comparison to a lot of other agents say their databases are. And it's a lot more intimate, and I know everybody in my database. Like, I know who they are. They're not just random people, and it's an easier way to build that strong relationship. And you're exactly right. It creates a lot more balance with me because I know where they're going to be coming. I know when their cycle is going to be when people are looking, because we talk to them so often, we see them so often, we're there through good times and bad with them. We're just there to support them. So yeah, it's a great opportunity to have my business be balanced with my life, just because I know what stage and where people are at in their lives, because we are so connected to our database.
One of the pieces of advice, Ryan, we get when we're at real estate conferences in particular, is to be very careful that you're putting all your eggs in one basket, because that funnel can be turned off at any time, i.e. all my marketing dollars is in Zillow, but if Zillow changes their algorithm or Facebook changes their algorithm, things can dry up real quick. The one exception to that is your database. There is no change in algorithm. There's no Zillow turnoff or price hike that doesn't make it sustainable. You own your database. You own those relationships. If you're going to put your eggs in one basket, that basket should be in the people that you've already serviced. You don't have a concern that the cost is going to go up or the algorithm is going to change when you take care of your past clients.
No, exactly. And you can't beat a face-to-face conversation. You can't beat picking up the phone and just talking with somebody. You're absolutely right. There's no algorithm to that. And I mean, as long as you're an authentic, nice human being, you're going to be able to build relationships and grow your database and grow that relationship with your clients. And that's something social media just can't do. It can help, but it can't replace it.
The mindset of having a conversation when you pick up the phone, I think, is so important. And we touched on it just really quickly before we pressed record for the third time, or truly the second time, but you know what I mean. This idea that when you reach out to a past client, if your purpose of reaching out is to benefit yourself, opposed to reaching out to truly say hello to them or to let them know how the changing interest rates are impacting them, they're going to smell that. They're going to sense that. The spidey senses come up. And you said something very interesting. The busier you get, the more authentic you are.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody's so paranoid of that salesman, the spam phone calls and everything. Like, everybody's on such high alert now. And when our business is as busy as it ever is, it's when we're being our authentic selves, when we're actually caring about what's going on in people's lives. Our conversations aren't revolving around, hey, Michael, are you looking to buy a house right now? Like, you've been in your house for 5 years. It's kind of the stats say your cycle should be up type of thing. Like, it has nothing to do with that. It's talking about their lives and what's going on and actually caring about what's happening in their kids' lives and school starting and how kids are adjusting, how parents are adjusting. And I mean, like I was telling to you earlier, that roller coaster ride is a hard ride for even experienced real estate agents at times. Like, there's definitely low times in our years. And I can tell when we're at the bottom of that roller coaster ride where our phone calls change a little bit, and then it takes a little bit of time for me to, I'm like, well, no, that's not what we're doing, and get back to the way we're actually caring about people, because it's a slippery slope. And I think that's something a lot of people need to understand is the old adage is people don't care until they know you care.
Yeah.
And that's it hits home for both Jen and I all the time. And I mean, she's, as you know, she's probably one of the nicest human beings I've ever, and authentic human beings I've ever come across. And it's just that, like, I mean, you can't be in it to sell people. People are so aware of salesmen now, and you just have to want to build relationships, and the business is going to be there. That's what you have to trust is if you can build a relationship with somebody and they trust you and they actually care about you and your family as well, that relationship is solid gold.
Absolutely. So talking about those reaching out points, Ryan, throughout the year, are those reaching out points proactive? They're structured. I'm going to reach out to this person every quarter, and these are the type of conversations that I'm going to have with them. Or is your conversations very reactive, as in the interest rates ran up? I just noticed on Facebook that your son graduated high school. How are you structuring these opportunities to check in, to maintain that relationship, to make sure you're always adding value?
We do a little bit of both. I mean, our proactive ones, like every year we do a real estate market update for their specific house. So it's right around their home anniversary. We put values together, not specifically on their house, but just on the neighborhood they're in, and try not to make it too much of a value directly at their house that way. But it's a good reason for us to go and just catch up again. And that's almost like a side piece to it. Everybody kind of expects us to be coming once a year now. And every time we do it, it leads us down a rabbit hole of just other conversations of life and family and where things are at. And then obviously birthdays, that sort of stuff we're talking to regularly. It doesn't have to be a phone call from us all the time. Like we'll just send a text message for a happy birthday or a video. Like we send lots of birthday videos out. And then naturally when interest rates, like the stuff in the world changes, we're going to be a little bit more reactive and make sure we're talking to people about that stuff. But it's kind of a fine line between both of them, to be honest.
And how are you delivering those market updates to your clients every year?
It's a little bit of a mix. Like I'll phone them or send them a text message just to open the conversation and then see if they have time for coffee. I'd love to go for coffee. We got your annual market review again up for you just to share something with you. And then if they have time, then we go for coffee. If not, we'll just send it over to them, send them a bomb video with our explanation of it. And then we follow up with a phone call. So there's a lot of it depends on their schedule and our schedule, but that's the way we try to do it is start with a heads up that it's ready for them and then try and schedule something to get together.
You send a lot of bomb videos. You're saying you're sending the market updates that way. You're sending the birthday updates out that way. And I don't know if this is for you. It is for us as a team. The triggers, the tracking triggers of people opening up bomb videos and emails that you sent months ago create these amazing opportunities. Do you use those tracking indications that they're engaging with you to reach out again? How important it is for these serendipitous moments to present themselves through bomb tracking?
Absolutely. Especially when because we'll always send a digital copy of that market update as well. Always a digital copy, and it's always attached to bomb. So when I see they've opened those up, especially weeks or months down the road, it is a good trigger to just reach out and have a conversation. And again, it's not a real estate conversation. It's just checking in, see how they're doing, see how life's going, and having a genuine conversation. But those triggers in bomb are, I mean, you can't really replicate them. They're absolutely invaluable.
Because it really indicates they're thinking about you, because this is how your database works. I do not possess the skill set as a salesman to get someone who doesn't want to buy a home to buy a home, or get someone who doesn't want to sell their home to sell their home. We're really here for when they're ready. And those triggers indicate they're thinking about something. They've got a question in the back of their head, or they're revisiting things. And that's how you approach your database too as well. Your job, Ryan, as you've said to me, is just to be there so when they need me, I'm there for them.
That's ultimately what I'm striving to do on an ongoing basis. I mean, it's keeping my relationship strong with them, but it's also staying top of mind with everybody too. When they're out at the hockey rink, they're out at wherever, and having a conversation with friends of theirs and real estate comes up, I want to be on top of mind for them. And it's trying to find ways to stay in touch with everybody without again, being that sales guy, like you got to find different ways to communicate and stay top of mind and connect. And that's where BombBomb I found has been a lot of fun, because you can send fun different videos, and it's a lot more personal, and it shares a lot more emotion than just standard kind of mass emails going out to everybody.
I couldn't agree with you more. You do client parties, big parties, small parties. Walk us through your client get-togethers and any advice you would share with agents that don't do client get-togethers.
First and foremost, do them. They're absolutely amazing. We've done some, and I mean, obviously COVID changed how we do them. Before COVID, we had full entire database parties where it was a come and go barbecue, and we try to do 2 or 3 a year, and we always have one specific for kids, where it's kids themed, whether there's face painting or different stuff going on. Could be bouncy house, could be something outside. We've rented the rink and had skating parties and brought out some of the Brown and Wheat Kings to be a part of it. But then we've also done where it's adults only, and we rent a bar out and have food and have open bar for a couple hours, and just ways that we can connect with people away from real estate, and we can just actually talk. It's an easy way for them to see how big our network is as well. So it's an easy way to have a self promotion without really saying, hey, look at us, we're real successful, because they're there and they see all the people. And since COVID, we've shifted and done a lot more smaller events where it's maybe 10 or 12 families that are invited, just because of size limitations to spaces and that. But then we also did home deliveries. We delivered, I remember we did 3 of them, and they were a lot of fun. They were a lot of work on our end, but we worked with 3 different local restaurants at times. And like we delivered pizzas. We made at-home pizza kits and delivered them to every kid in our database. Got a small pizza dough. I think it was pepperoni and cheese and sauce, and it all came in a box with instructions on how to make a pizza at home, and then had a contest of who made the creative pizza, and they posted it and they shared it. And we worked with a local restaurant, and they gave away a prize for the most creative pizza afterwards. And I mean, we're always trying to do stuff like that. Or I think it was 2 years ago when May Long weekend was on, and the government in Manitoba had locked everything down. So you weren't even supposed to be leaving your house. Like, it was at the peak of COVID and everything, and everybody was on complete lockdown. So we did, instead of May Long weekend's always a huge weekend in Manitoba for opening up your cabins and going to the lake and everything. So we did a s'mores at home kit, where we dropped off a kit for every family to make s'mores, like this huge box full of different types of s'mores and toppings. And it was our way of getting a client event without having a client event. Yeah. At the end of the day, the client events are to connect with people. And one lesson I learned right away with a client event is the invitation to the event is almost as powerful as somebody attending that event. Because they're
you were thought
grateful.
Of.
Yeah, they're so grateful that, hey, you thought of us. I can't make it, but you get just as much out of that from an agent side of things.
A lot of our listeners, Ryan, will be thinking, okay, great. I'm reaching out to them. I'm wishing happy birthday. I've got client parties. I've rented out a bar. We've got appies going. When do I ask for the business?
That's a tricky one. I mean, we don't typically do that. We don't ask for the business a lot, if ever, to be honest. People, especially in our database, they know what we do. Our goal is to be there for them when they're ready, to have that relationship with them that, like I said earlier, we want to be top of mind with them, that when real estate comes up on their own terms, we're the first people they think of. When they're ready, we're there for them. And that's what our goal is through these client events, through all of these real estate reviews and birthday phone calls. And every time I see them at the rink and that, it's just to build that relationship so we are there for them when they're ready.
It's interesting. I mean, the analogy kind of is to have this awesome evening where there's, great local beers and great appetizers, and you're having a fun night. And just before people start to leave, you and Jen stand up on the bar and said, now that you've had a good night, send us business.
Yeah.
It almost poisons the authenticity of just getting together. And once again, you're proof that you don't need to poison the experience. Just let the experience sit on its own.
Well, and I absolutely. I mean, We've all been to those sales pitches, whether it's at the resort where you got to sit through a 2 hour timeshare to get on a free trip or something. And
Yep.
there's always that catch at the end. And I feel like at the end of these gatherings, when there's not, it almost catches people by surprise more. So, or it did at the beginning. Everybody expects it now that we're not going to do that. But I remember people coming and saying, well, how much do we got to pay for this? Or what do we got to give you for this? I'm like, well, nothing. Like, it's just being that nice guy. We're thanking you for being part of our business. We're thanking you for being in our database and being friends of ours. And this is a good night. Go have fun. Go listen to the music. Have a beer, and we'll come and catch up with you in a little bit. And I think people are more surprised and appreciative of something like that than they're expecting that sales pitch.
Last question before we move on. What advice would you give an agent that has past business, but just hasn't done a good job of reaching out to them? How would you advise an agent to start to build back a relationship that may have lagged over time?
It starts with picking up the phone, to be honest with you. I mean, it's happened to me a few times, and picking up the phone and almost kind of apologizing for not staying in touch and checking and see how they're doing. As long as there's no sales pitch involved in it, people are going to like it and they're going to appreciate it. But if you haven't talked to somebody in a few years and the first thing that comes out of your mouth in that conversation is you're thinking of buying or selling, well, you've lost them completely again, because they know you don't care about them, and that's all they see themselves as is a transaction. So people do like authenticity. And when I pick up the phone, and it hasn't happened for a few years, but when I did, and I said, listen, I apologize. I haven't been in touch in a couple of years, and that's on me. I feel terrible about that. But how are things going? Like, how is life? And they're like, oh, okay. And it smooths it out. It's just, I mean, everybody makes a mistake. You're allowed to say sorry for something, especially when somebody's not necessarily expecting you to have that ongoing relationship. But if you pick up the phone and explain what you're doing, people are going to be very appreciative of it moving forward.
Now it's time for Been There, Done That.
Tell him he gives me a cup of coffee, I'll answer his questions.
We're on to the rapid fire round of 7 questions focused on our guest's years of real estate experience. Ryan, question number 1. If you move to a new area, what would be the number one thing you'd be looking for in a new brokerage?
Culture and a brokerage that supports my vision for doing my business, and just want to be able to do things my way, and have a support staff and support agents around that are like-minded to share ideas and grow with each other, not against each other.
Question number 2, what advice would you give an agent who's never experienced a dramatic market shift to help them get the most out of a changing market?
I guess it's a lot of the theme we've been talking about today is just stay connected to your database, stay doing what we're doing. And if you're going to continue to dive into your database, into your clients, it's going to balance itself out. It's going to come back around, but don't panic. Don't find that next shiny object just because you feel you need to, or other people are. Just stay consistent to what you're doing.
Question number 3, I think I might know. In your business today, what single activity or product gives you the best ROI of your time and or dollars?
Well, obviously our database, but the one single thing that we've done, and when was it that you and I were in Calgary? How many years ago was that?
Oh my goodness. At Banff?
Yes. Was that, I don't know, 8 or 9 years?
Yeah, maybe longer than that. Yeah,
7, 8. But anyway, you introduced me to Bomb Bomb for the first time. You introduced me to Bomb Bomb, and that single program has revolutionized our business and the way we communicate with people. It allows us to connect so personally with our database and leverage our business and connect on an emotional level that I never thought was possible without actually being face to face.
Question number 4, what is the worst movie you legitimately enjoy?
You know, it's funny. I thought about this one long and hard since you reached out to me. And there's one movie that keeps coming back and I can't beat it, but it's called Blue Crush. And I haven't seen it in probably, I'm going to say 7 or 8 years, but it was a movie, and Jen absolutely hates it. But it was a movie I watched regularly when I was at university playing hockey. It was like a movie I watched before hockey games. It was just like a mindless, stupid movie. And yeah, so Blue Crush would be that one for me.
Is it a surfer movie or something?
Yes.
I'm trying to think of
Yes, it is a surfer movie, and the girl gets it's like a shark attack, and then she's working at the resort, and there's some football players that come down, and it's just it's a weird, goofy movie, but it was an easy one to watch, and I got hooked on it.
Number 5, what is the best piece of business advice you've received?
It's actually a quote, and it stuck with me from our current broker, and it relates to me a lot because obviously I'm big into sports, and it says winning in sports is about competition, and winning in business and real estate is about collaboration. So for me, it really struck a nerve that we're in this together. It's not about winning and losing. It's about working together and everybody growing. And if other agents are growing, I'm growing with them, and vice versa. So it's working together and collaborating with each other.
Number 6, 30,000 foot view. What is something you wish you could change about the industry?
I guess it would be along the same lines as that. I wish we were all more collaborative, and I know we all fly different banners and different markets and stuff, but I wish we all worked together. I know you and I have worked on a couple different projects, and even though you're Remax, I'm Royal LePage, I wish the business in general was more collaborative, and everybody could work together and share ideas together.
I couldn't agree more. Number 7, in one sentence, how would you sum up the internet?
The internet is dangerous, and I'll kind of give a bit of a background on or that. Dangerous in a way, it's a big time suck. It can be a way to lose track of what you're doing in a day, and next thing you know, you're down a goofy rabbit hole. But it's also dangerous to agents from a real estate standpoint. There's so much opportunities on the internet to allow the internet to run your business, whether it's automated systems, whether it's social media and tracking what people are doing that way. It's dangerous because it stops you from doing what we need to do, whether that's connecting on a personal level or connecting as humans. I find it to be dangerous is the word I keep coming back to. There is it's easy to go down too many rabbit holes.
Well, thanks, Ryan, for being my guest and spilling the beans on why we should be focused on the past and not the future. And thanks for the listener for joining Ryan Shields and myself for a chat about Rich and Balanced here at the Real Estate Coffee House. We hope it brewed up some value for you, and remember to enjoy the grind.
That's this week's episode of the Real Estate Coffee House podcast with your host, Michael Thorne. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode. The Real Estate Coffee House podcast is brought to you by Thorne Maisie Bongers Real Estate Group with Remax Lifestyles Realty in Langley, BC. Thank you for listening.